Recently, I posted on my channel that I wanted to do a Q&A. It's been a long time since I've taken your questions and answered them in a video format. Now, if you didn't see that post, you may not be subscribed to the channel. In order to do so, you just have to be logged into your Google account, hit subscribe, and that's a great feature with YouTube is you can hit subscribe on any of the creators you like to watch. That way you can quickly go to your subscription tab on your YouTube app or within your computer, and you can find the YouTubers that you want to watch and you see all of their more recent videos. The other thing that it does is there's a community tab which YouTube creators can use to post things like surveys or questions or things like I posted asking what questions do you have for me, and it's just another way for a YouTube content creator to communicate with their subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. I'm excited. I've got some great questions. They aren't all money related, but let's just jump right into them. The first one comes from Terry, and Terry writes, how do I get into a more frugal mindset when money is a little less tight? When we were raising our children, my husband's hours and mine were not aligned. He was in law enforcement with each other, so I went part-time. Money was tighter, so I had to watch our spending. Now that we are retired and money is not as tight, I am not as frugal. I don't overspend, but feel I could have more control. First of all, Terry, thank him for his service from me and from my family, as my husband is also in law enforcement, as you may know, seeing the most recent video I did talking about that finally on my channel. I want to thank you too for the support that you've provided him. And I also do know that crazy schedule and having to juggle that with even both of you being full-time, maybe you went down to part-time, and making that sacrifice in order to have time with your family. As far as now that things aren't as tight, I would say you don't have to. You know, the thing about being frugal is it's not always this constant squeeze. If you've got margin, meaning you've got room between your income and your expenses, you're still saving, you're still putting away towards retirement, you're still living comfortably, you're still getting maintenance on your home done and on your vehicles, and everything's a little okay, then if you have a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit more margin to treat yourself once in a while or buy a few new things, as long as it's within the budget that you've planned out, then that's okay. We can feel like there's such a need to just squeeze the budget as tight as we can and only ever save as frugal people, but at some point comes a time when it's okay to open up a bit, to give more, to put more towards saving, it's okay to spend a little bit more on yourself. Now, if you feel that you're out of control with it, then that's another situation that you need to take into account and think, okay, let me do my budget. Let me pull back a little bit. I have still room that I can spend, but that way I'm not going to feel like I'm completely being wasteful. Rachel writes, we paid off our credit cards last month. We are working on paying off debt, and once we get our cars and student loans paid off, we want to start on the mortgage. How much extra did you pay on your monthly payment to be able to pay off your house? I'm wondering how long it will take us to pay off ours. Rachel, first of all, congratulations on paying off your credit cards. I know that feeling of that stress, of that high interest, of those credit card payments. It's hard, it's tough, and you did it. So just take a moment and pat yourself on the back for doing that successfully, and for also having the intention, and you are definitely going to do it, getting your student loans and your cars paid off. So keep those things, do one goal at a time. As far as our mortgage, if you aren't familiar with that story, I recently posted that we finally paid off our mortgage. So if you followed along on my channel on YouTube, I've been talking about how our goal was to pay off our mortgage quickly, and we were finally able to do it in, I think, May of this year, and it was so cool. Now, as far as how much more we put towards that, I think it was probably 6 years ago when 5 years ago actually, when we sat down and we started to see our mortgage. We had recently refinanced and thought, how much extra could we put towards the mortgage, and how long, if we ran out the spreadsheet, how long would it take us to pay it off? And that ran us, I think, to something like 2026 or 2027. So I said, well, what if you put in a little bit more? And it showed how quickly it could pay off. And I think our last estimate was in 2025, and we paid it off a year earlier than that. And that is because usually when you're on track to a goal, you're going to get there faster when you're focused on it than you originally anticipated. The other thing to keep in mind is that sometimes between the time of the idea of a goal and the actual goal, there's years in between, and you may have job changes where you may get paid more, you may have bonuses that come in, you may have a windfall of money, you may have a situation where you can have you found a lower rental price, or the interest rate did go down and you were able to refinance. So now you can put more money in whatever those scenarios are toward your principal on your mortgage. So what we did, it was never ever the exact same amount every single month. We still lived, we still saved for retirement, we still repaired things that need to be repaired, we still, had fun as a family within still the frugal lifestyle that we had. But each month it would vary because never know. The dog gets sick, there's $750 immediately. It's ridiculous vet costs these days. Let me just tell you that you were going to put towards the mortgage that month. Now you can. The biggest thing that I would say is you need to get your income and your expenses gap wider, okay? So you want the most income and the least expenses. So one thing that we did over the course of our marriage is we kept our expenses as much as you can within obvious inflation around the same cost. We went on similar vacations. We spent similar amounts of money at the grocery store. We didn't buy all these brand new cars and brand new payments. We didn't go buy a more house or mortgage than we could afford. So that as our income increased over the 14 years we've been married, that gap was even bigger, so we could put more money towards the principal payment on the mortgage. So just to give you an idea, some months it was $1,000, some months it was double payments, some months it was triple payments. You just never know. So what I would suggest is focus on the goals you have in front of you first, okay? Because those are important. Because when you get those student loans paid off and that car loan paid off, think about, let's just say your student loan's $200 a month. Let's say your car payment's $500 a month. That right there is $700 a month you were already paying towards something that now is completely freed up when those things are paid off to put towards your mortgage. So you're going to get it paid off quicker than you think. Christine writes, thanks for your videos. Just wondering if you have any advice for stay-at-home moms who are not working but still want to contribute in some way to improving the financial situation, such as how much savings we have for the family. I do cooking at home, growing some veggies, and using the public library, but interested to see if you had any other ideas. There's a second part to this question, but I'll answer the first part of Christine's question here. And first of all, I want to say, Christine, not to remember, but you need to remember how valuable you are right now. A lot of times, stay-at-home moms can think that they're not contributing. Or in culture today, they can be told that being a stay-at-home mom is completely useless and you're wasting your life. You are not. You are doing something so important and so impactful to your family and to your children. Keep in mind that when you're thinking about this. Now, as far as also remembering what you're bringing to the household now, what you're doing right now is helping your family, is saving your family. You're cooking at home. You're going to the library. You're already doing wonderful things. So remember that, please. Remember that you are valued and you are valuable. As far as outside of that, stay-at-home moms can certainly pick up things if you want to bring in extra income. I don't know if that's the question you're asking here. Obviously, you can be as frugal as you want to be, and that also saves. But you can also bring in more money with little side things that you can do. Now, I made one of these videos at the beginning of the year, but I really didn't go into a ton of detail. Let me know if anyone on this channel would be interested in if I went into a really, really in-depth detail with very fine information about all kinds of different ways you can bring in income into your household. Now, remember, this is not going to be one of those get-rich-quick schemes. It's not going to be like, oh, you should start a blog, oh, you should start a YouTube channel, because those take years to establish and start bringing in money. And it will look like work, because that's what it is. You give your time for money. You give your time for money. Getting rich quick doesn't happen. So if anybody's interested in me actually digging through some of the ways we can bring in extra money and get actual details about the amounts, the places to look, what it involves, let me know in the comments down below. The second part to Christine's question was also just out of curiosity, how did you get started on YouTube? What inspired you to make your own channel? Was it something you had wanted to do for a long time or something spontaneous? Thanks. YouTube was something that, let me think back time frame. About 9 years ago, I started in a field where I had to speak in front of hundreds of people and sometimes angry people. And I got really good at it really quickly. And then there was a point in my life where I had trouble with infertility. And this was back between, I think, 2013 and 2016. And there really, at that time, were not a lot of helpful advice that you could find where people talked about it and how difficult it was and what it was like and what to expect. And so thought I want to help people in whatever way that was possible. I also enjoyed YouTube. Now at that time, a lot of the YouTube that I was consuming like hauls or decor videos or just mom life or things like makeup tutorials. But I knew after that, after going through the infertility and how difficult that was, losing a child, a baby in early pregnancy, and then being able to welcome my amazing daughter, and then realizing I can't have any more children and how much of a gift she is, that I thought I need to share. And then I'm also really good at speaking with people. So it was a very realizing what I was good at and what I wanted to talk to people about. Now that didn't really narrow down to being money for a while as I started my channel, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to talk about. But I do remember hearing somebody I worked with talk about YouTube when I was already kind of thinking about it in my mind, and this person was an accountant and they were helping their cousin out who at the time had 75,000 subscribers. So as the income rolls in, he had a gaming channel or something like that, he was helping his cousin with the accounting part of having a YouTube channel with that many subscribers and with how many reviews he had. And what's odd about this question coming on the heels of me hitting that 75,000 subscriber milestone that was stuck in my head because of that one conversation, which was the spark for me to say, you know what? Normal people do this and I can do this and I can provide help on this channel. So that's kind of the backstory of YouTube. It's been 6.5 long years and I'm still enjoying it, and I hope you are as well. Lizette writes, I just recently found your channel this past week. What are some pieces of advice you'd give your past self about money? Lizette, the thing about my past self and money is if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't be here now. You can go to college, you can read all about money and finance and hear other people's experiences, but that really doesn't give you the wisdom that comes with going through an experience and with age. And if I hadn't gone through that experience of, if you don't know that story, being in debt, having collectors calling me, having no money, and that feeling of, it was just, I think about it and it hurts, I remember it, of just shame from getting myself into that situation and guilt and not knowing what to do. So the thing about that is I could go back and tell myself, and I try to mentor people as much as I can, especially in their 20s. And the thing about people in their 20s is love them to pieces, and I was one of them. It goes in one ear right out the other. For most of them, not all of them. So you try to do your best so you can plant the seed of, hey, don't do the same thing that I did. Learn from my wisdom. So would I go back and tell myself something? Sure. Would myself have listened? Probably not. Sarah writes, do you still have your garden? And I do still have my garden. The thing about this past summer though is we had this heat wave in, I think, May, where it was in the 90s. So right when those vegetables were trying to come up, we were so excited because I love summer squash, green beans, okra. We were planting it all and it all just died. We got a little bit out of it, but because of that extreme heat during that early time of the growth of those plants, it all died. So it was very, very unfortunate. We actually, I'm pointing towards my garden right now, have planted in there for the fall. We've got carrots, we've got beets, and we've got lettuce already coming up. So I'm very excited. Hopefully the weather cooperates and these vegetables can actually make it out of the ground nicely. Kirsten writes, advice on going from 2 incomes to 1. Well, the first thing you've got to do, Kirsten, is just sit down and run that scenario out. Business. I talk about income and finances, personal finance, in the way of running a business. Or successful businesses have budgets, they have goals, they have scenarios that they run out and to see how it might look so they can anticipate anything any hardships or risk in the future. And I think, because think about how much you make a year. Let's talk about that as a business. Shouldn't you run it as a business, treat it as such? I think if you do, you're probably going to be better off. So as far as going from 2 incomes to 1, you're going to run that scenario out. You're going to have your budget. If you don't have a budget, that's okay. You're going to go through the last 3 months of your expenses, decide how much you're spending on things that are variable expenses, utilities, gas, groceries, other, eating out, etc., and you're going to get an average. Then you're going to write down all of your fixed expenses. You're going to add those 2 up and see how much they are. Now, if you add up all of your expenses and it's $4,000 and you're bringing in $6,000 with 1 income, hey, you're gravy. You've got $2,000 worth of margin between income and expenses. Now, if you run this budget out, your expenses of $4,000 and going down to 1 income leaves you with $3,500, then that's not going to work. You're going to be negative $500 and on a shoestring budget, meaning if there's anything that happens, that $500 negative is going to be more. Same thing if it was $4,000 of expenses and you're bringing home $4,000. That's way too close of a margin to be comfortable. So as far as if something happens. So run out that scenario. See what removing 1 income looks like. And from there, you can decide what to do. Maybe it's a situation where it is a little tight. So maybe you don't go down from full-time, you go down to part-time, or maybe you pick up one of these side things that I'm going to, hopefully, if you want me to, let me know in the comments below, talk about, so you can bring in that extra $500 a month just from doing something, 10 hours a week, which is absolutely possible. So that is my advice on how to go from 2 incomes down to 1. There might also be additional sacrifices that you have to make, cutting back here, cutting back there, in the case that this is something that is going to be really impactful and beneficial for your family. Dora writes, does your daughter and husband also spend their money frugally? Dora, my husband is frugal McDougal. He is a saver through and through, and I am the spender in the relationship. And if you ever heard about this, usually you don't have 2 spenders. If you do, or usually there aren't 2 savers. I mean, that's a great situation. Everybody's saving money all the time, but more often than not, you'll have in a relationship a saver and a spender, and I'm the spender, he's the saver. And because of him and seeing his ways, I have become more of that saver and more of scarcity about the spending. I've gotten better about it. And in turn, he's also loosened up a bit and realized, we also need to live. You can't just scrimp and save on absolutely everything. And he's learned more about my frugal traits, about how to get good deals, spending a little bit of money and get good deals. So my daughter, as far as she goes, I think she's learning it. So she's like 8, almost 8 now. And we're trying to teach her, through chores and through earning and getting those fundamentals first, and then understanding, do we spend here or do we spend there? And we're hoping that our good behaviors, our good habits will rub off on her and she will take those into her adulthood. Kansas Mom Saves asks, when paying off debt, how do I keep from feeling the urge to impulse buy and feeling guilty for literally buying anything outside of the budget? Well, for the latter part of the question, don't buy anything outside of the budget. That's the first thing, But how do I keep from feeling the urge to impulse buy? You need to put something in the budget for some wants. Even during the time of paying off debt, have that budget, but have a little bit of something in there for you, even if it's getting your nails done once a month, going for a coffee out only on Fridays, something small that is not super impactful to your goal of paying off your debt, but doesn't make you feel deprived. Because if you try to go on, one of those no sugar, no carb, no gluten, no dairy diets all at once, and it's not something you have the momentum or the gusto to do, and you then do like I used to eat like a whole sleeve of cookies, especially when I was pregnant. You go and you eat all this other stuff and you just feel, like that. You feel bad because you've spent, but that's also because you've literally taking all the joy and the fun out of living. So that would be my set thing there, is it should be in the budget. Don't spend outside the budget, but budget for a little bit to make you feel like you got a little something to look forward to while you are walking this tightrope, or while you're walking this path of paying off debt. Michelle writes, which Caroline Girvan workout series are you doing? Loving iron. Now, Michelle is saying this because I recently talked about how I had a friend and I went over and I was like, what have you been doing, because you look great? So I was working out as far as I was rucking. I had a ruck pack and I would go rucking 2 miles a day, but I wasn't seeing a huge increase in muscle or stamina, or the excess body weight that I wanted to lose after I'd had some health issues for the past year, and I gained. So I was like, what did you do? And she said, I found this series called, this woman on YouTube called Caroline Girvan, who's a fitness trainer. And she had this series called the Iron Series. Super simple. It's like 30-40 minute workouts. It's not high intensity, which I don't like, because high intensity also messes up my back. It messes up my muscles. And overall, it's just not enjoyable to me. And oh my goodness, the weight training, I do it at home. It's super simple to understand, and the impact, the least amount of effort for the most amount of impact I've found has been in her series. Now, so if you're interested in lifting weights, obviously always check with a doctor before you do so. You do have to make sure when you're doing lifting weights that you are doing the proper form, which I do have experience from the past of working with a trainer previously years ago in knowing proper form. But this, if you're interested in picking up some muscle so that you have that muscle density as you get older, which helps you as you get older, because we do lose muscle density as we get older, Caroline Girvan is a great series. You can have it, modeled based on what you are looking for. Now, also, I have now downloaded her app. She has an app. You can find a lot of her workouts on YouTube that she's done in the previous, and you can just repeat them. But I have downloaded her app, and I think it's like, $16 a month, and it's so well worth it. It's way less than a gym membership, and I have seen amazing results. I do it literally on my back porch, and it's just amazing. So if you're interested in Caroline Girvan, I am doing the Iron Series, Michelle. I also absolutely love it. Margaret asks, how do you save when heating costs are rising again and you're on a fixed income? Well, I think there's a couple parts here, Margaret. Regarding a fixed income, I don't know. The other thing about when people ask questions or different people's scenarios on YouTube is I try to be as broad in my answer as I can, because I know everybody's got different situations. If I sat down with you and I knew all of your financial situation, I would probably tell you something very specific as far as do this, 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 and this, because I could see everything laid out in front of me. Based on, a 12-word sentence, I don't really have a good grasp of what's going on. Is your fixed income because you're not able to actually have any other income come in? Is your fixed income just what you have right now? Are there retirement assets that you can draw interest off of? Is there an ability to go out and make more money, take up a part-time job? My grandmother didn't work, but she did babysit kids, especially later on in her age. My grandpa always wanted to work, so even after he was able to, after he stopped retiring, he went back to work for a bit, and then he went and worked at a retirement home, which he later on in life actually moved into before he ended up passing. So it's just something that when during lean times, there might be a situation where you have to take on extra something else to do in order to bring in extra income. Now, again, I don't know your specific situation. In the case of somebody whose fixed income cannot bring in any extra income, there's nothing else there, then the best thing you could do, or the only thing you can really do, is just try to spend as less as possible. And I know that's very difficult, and that breaks my heart for people who are on that fixed income and cannot bring in anything else. Those are the people that, first of all, I want to help people be in a situation where if they're at that age, or if they're at an age where they're retiring, that they don't run into that, okay? And I also want to help people who are there, who are in that situation. And that's how with your local community, getting help within your local community and people who are in your local community giving back is beneficial. So as far as that goes, also with heating costs, I'm getting ready to do a video about money saving through the fall and winter and different tips that are going to be helpful. So that might be a video you want to check out as well. But that's the best answer I can talk to you about without really knowing the specifics, and trying to give you as many different answers for different scenarios as I can. Dora also asked a second question. In your opinion, what's the best way and time to do a no-spend challenge? For a no-spend challenge, I definitely, if you're going to do, okay, there's different ones. If you're going to do an entire month, which is difficult, I recommend doing that at the beginning of the year. It's definitely easier in January, February, March than any other time of the year, unless you have a ton of birthdays, events coming up, anniversaries, or whatever in the first part of the year. But that is probably the best time because people are really motivated to do it. It's past the holidays, so past the spending, and they really don't feel like buying anything anyways because they're retailed out. So if you're going to do an entire month, I would suggest doing that. Now, I think more efficient and doing it as an ongoing habit is putting it as a no spend specific time for the entire year. Now, that's not a no spend year, which I know there are some people who have done, but it's no spend Fridays, no spend end of month weekend at the end of the month. That is what I highly recommend doing. The last weekend of the month, we don't spend on anything other than the necessities. So those are my recommendations depending upon what type of no spend you're going to do. Ananda writes, are you planning on retiring from your full-time job now that you're debt free? No, I do not plan on retiring. I probably don't ever plan on not doing something. Even when I'm an old lady, I plan on working in the church and helping people and giving back. I do not plan to retire from my corporate job. Currently, it's wonderful. It's great. I work from early in the morning till late afternoon, and then on the weekends I do this YouTube channel. So I really don't stop working, and that's because I enjoy creating. I enjoy being a benefit in whatever way possible. But I will say that the one big thing that came from paying off our mortgage and being debt free, and the reason we aren't really I'm not going to stop working as well, is because we have other goals, other things that we want to do in life and still continue to, pay towards retirement. So we're comfortable in our retirement age when we aren't able to work. But the thing about it is being able to go into your job, know that you don't have to work there. I always like this saying, I do what I want, when I want, how I want. And so that's really what I want to focus on. I want to work, but I want to work when I want to work, how I want to work, and with who I want to work. So if there's situation where I'm working in a job where, let's say, somebody buys out the company, or the structure changes as far as who's over you, leadership changes, there's a restructuring within the company, or different policies come down that don't align with my beliefs, then I can say, weigh the situation here and go, you know what, I can take a job that pays less, has less stress, and I'm going to be just fine. So that freedom is amazing. Not just the peace of not having the debt, but the freedom to be able to make those decisions about my quality of life, and the quality of life for my family is a huge, huge thing that came with being able to pay off our debt completely. Tammy writes, we are paying extra as much as we can monthly on our home, but sometimes it makes the monthly budget a little tighter than I like. Any advice? I love, love, love your channel. You seem so down to earth like my husband and I. Thank you for all you do. Tammy, I really, really appreciate that. I hope that my genuineness comes through on my channel. I think, one of the things is I've never done a sponsorship on this channel. I do get paid just from the Google AdSense on views that I have on my videos. I appreciate every single view from that. Certainly I could bring in more money through sponsorships that I get emailed all the time. None of them have ever been something that I have wanted to sell to you without basically just being a lie. There's nothing that's come across that I'm like, yeah, I use that. I believe in that. I'm going to sell that and tell my viewers that they need to do this or that. It's not something that I'm going to do. I'm not going to sell myself out on this channel for whatever money that is. So I appreciate you talking about, that I'm down to earth, or you believe that I'm down to earth. I hope that my genuineness does come through. We are paying extra as much as we can monthly. Okay, so let's talk about your question. But sometimes the monthly budget is a little tighter than I like. The thing about this is it sounds like you're squeezing to get every last drop. And I know that urge to get that house paid off. And you can see it, even like 6 months out, like when it's really, really close, or it's under 6 figures, or under 50,000, you're like, it's right there, and you just want to squeeze as much as you can. I know that feeling. But remember that this isn't something where it's 20, 30% interest rate or 10% interest rate, where it's bleeding you dry just to pay the interest on the debt that you have, and you need to get it paid off. This is your mortgage. I don't know what your interest rate is. It's okay. You need to still be comfortable. You need to still enjoy life. So I would say there might be situations where maybe there's a balance. Maybe there's a few months a year where you really squeeze. You do a few no-spend months where you squeeze as much as you can, but then you loosen up a bit on your budget, on the certain things that you value, whether that's going to a restaurant, or spending a little bit more on food, or going on a trip. You loosen up the budget a little bit so you don't feel that squeeze, because feeling that squeeze is not going to make it enjoyable. The path getting there, I can tell you by experience, the path getting to paying off the mortgage was fun. It was a lot of fun and very enjoyable, because we still lived, but we still were frugal, and there's a balance that you have to strike there. So if you're feeling it's a little too tight, I don't want you to get burned out on this goal. You might have to loosen up a bit. The next one, the username is Pancakes. It isn't always the person's name. Love your channel, as it's been quite helpful. I guess my question for you would be, what tips do you have for someone who wants to save for a down payment for a home in this economy? Well, I've talked about it throughout this video. It's that gap. That gap is the thing. It's the whole premise, because whatever's in that gap, the income to expenses, is what you can spend on whatever it is. What you can spend to pay off your debt, what you can spend to save for retirement, what you can spend to put down a down payment on a home. So what I talk about, and here's the thing, I was alive, been around long enough to remember the Great Recession of 2008 and being in the business world at that time, and having a 50% income drop. Luckily, I still had a job. I mean, I was happy and thankful for that. And what I've seen is the economy goes through these cycles, right? And every generation, the generation, this is horrible, inflation's crazy. Yeah. Every generation has their ups and downs. Every generation has their thing that they remember. The Great Depression, that generation remembers that Great Depression, and it changed them and their habits forever. So right now we're in what's called a lean time, meaning things are high. They're ridiculous. The grocery store is getting even wilder. Now, I could go into a whole other thing about what to do in the situation of an economy, because who you vote for does matter, because policies matter. It's not the person, it's the policy that they implement, because policies do affect people, okay? People's personalities at that level that I never see, that I never hang out with, do not affect me. People's policies, laws that are passed, things that are put in place, money that's spent, because let me tell you, the government does not understand income and expenses. They think, oh, we can just take more income and we can just print more money. I could go off on a whole tangent on this as far as the economy, but it's always going to come in waves. You have to be able to control what's in your four walls, okay? And so what I would say as far as how to save in this economy is, it might be a situation where, again, talking about, I don't know your particular situation. If I sat down with you, I could go through it and probably tell you a whole lot better. But just broadly thinking here, let's say you want to bring in more income. So hopefully that video that I'm going to make, going into more details about bringing in additional income streams, which also looks like work, taking up a little bit of extra work for a time period in order to have more income so you can save that down payment, might be something you need to do in your situation. I mean, goodness, it could be something where there's a car that's a payment that's $600 a month that you could get rid of, have a car with no payment that's a lot less expensive, and then you could bank that $600 every month for a year and have a bigger down payment. There's many different ways, but the biggest thing is figuring out how you can have more money. Meaning, is that more income? Is that reducing expenses? Is it this? Is it that? What can I do? It could be a combination of both of those, just depending upon your scenario. And then keep in mind, rent for as low as you can. I understand rents are high. For the time being, while you're saving for that perfect home, while you're saving for that down payment, whatever that goal down payment is for you. You will get there. You have a great goal. You have an idea of what you want. Just remember where you're going. Put a plan together on how to get there. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I'm a little long-winded, but if we were sitting here having a conversation, this is kind of how I wanted to run this video. So if you've made it this long, please make sure you click on that like button. Also, make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know how you're doing. How long have you watched my channel? What do you enjoy most about my channel? What might you want to see in the future? I enjoy you. I enjoy your questions. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next weekend for a new video.